Cool. We are live, and this is a meeting of the OpenJS Foundation's Cross-Project Council Standards Working Group. We have a few of our friends. We're missing a few of our friends today because they are at standards meetings, and there's always a standards meeting somewhere in the world on any given day at any given time, and that is where they are. So hope you're having fun, y'all. We start with announcements. Do we have some announcements we'd like to share today? Anybody? Got a couple, always do. Joe, is there anything big in Node that may have happened today? And you're muted.
Let me jog my memory. Oh yes, of course. Version 16 went live today. Yay! If you go to nodejs.org/whatever/releases, you can see the schedule, but yeah, 16 went live today, and that's exciting.
Congrats, Node. Congrats.
I wore green in Node's honor today.
Nice.
No, I actually just thought of that, but.
In less exciting, but still important and related news, the marketing committee meeting is just after this one. If you want to stick around and join us for the foundation marketing discussions, where we talk about how we can get the word out about our projects, please do. We also have a board meeting on Friday, and there's typically a public session after that, so we welcome folks to come attend that as well. And another just sort of like announcement type thing, in just over a week from now, Marcos Caceros from the W3C, who is the new chairperson of that spec editors community group I mentioned at our last meeting and also in Slack. He lives in Australia, okay? So, which means that's basically the moon as far as I'm concerned. It means I will be getting up at 8 a.m. to join a call for him at like midnight. But we're going to have this special meeting just to make that happen. He's going to talk a little bit about the community group, and we'll record that for our community. You know, we make it work. So I think that's it announcement wise. Oh, yes. Robin's got one.
Just the last thing, this week we'll be publishing our schedule for speakers at OpenJS World. We're just updating the website now. Speaker notifications already went out. So you should see that in the next day or two as soon as we have everything ready to go live. So if you have not registered, go to openjsworld.com and we'll just send you nice little calendar reminders. It is free.
Great. Great call. That's a good, of course that's happening. That's like one of many things. Okay, cool. So moving from the announcements then, unless there's others, we'll go into our agenda for today. Some of our items, one of our items in particular, we're gonna make listed items. We're going to make a private session, which is the discussion on our statement. So that's a surprise for everyone. The first item is dealing with the recurring CPC working session. I believe we settled this last week. I need to adjust I learned today that what I have to do is move the calendar invite, and then the Node make meeting tool will automatically fix it, and Joe has offered to help. So I think that will resolve that periodic issue that we have popped up. But just to remind everyone, on those days where we do have this, or actually I think maybe generally moving forward, we're going to have this meeting at 1 p.m. Eastern, so an hour earlier, and that should fix us. So thanks for working on that. The next, unless there was any other comments, I'll just roll on because I think that was pretty.
Do you want me to move that meeting now? The standards meeting to 1 p.m. Eastern time every freaking time?
Every time.
I'm on it right now. Continue on. I will make the change.
1 p.m. And that takes us to our next item, which is public for discussion. The education and onboarding resources, standards education onboarding resources that we've been just kind of trying to compile. And I think, especially with some attention that's being kind of turned toward how do we help people gain the skills that they might need or want to have when it comes to getting involved in standardization activities, sort of like the context, what kinds of things would be good to read, what kind of, videos or things. We've got a nice little list that is compiling here, and we brainstormed on several last week. I think this is obviously something we'll continue to add to. It's not an exhaustive list. I think our question is that we started to discuss but not make too much progress with is what we would want to do with this information. Like, do we want to put it on a website, and we could have it even be its own standalone website, so anybody from any organization could say, oh, well, here's stuff that's helpful for folks who are onboarding into blank org, or here's a perspective you may not see because you're in the web standards world, but here's how the hardware people do it, or whatever. I think the conversation kind of got cut off there, and so I'd like to pick it back up for a few minutes if folks have any ideas or thoughts on the matter.
Wouldn't the simplest be to just have a repo that has maybe 1 or 2 documents in it, and therefore let GitHub take care of the rendering and also the whole process of crowdsourcing its further development?
We could do, I like the idea of, I'll be honest, I like the idea of a website for a couple of reasons. And it could be a totally—
Then if we use
static
GitHub Pages,
Yeah.
then it can actually do all of that.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm capitulating, is to say, if it's a static site on GitHub, I think a web URL, it feels friendly. I don't know, but I'm down with that.
A curated destination. And in our marketing committee meeting this afternoon, we're talking about a way that we're templatizing websites for projects. So we could do the same with this, but we can have a little more fun with it. We could give it a name. It could be a standalone thing. So it just might maybe be easier to find.
We could give it a cool name. I'm super into cool names.
Mm-hmm.
Emily Aro's excellent education. I'm trying to think of another E word.
I was thinking that the branding would be more about the OpenJS Foundation or something.
Oh, okay.
But I'm okay with this if you want to make it all about me.
Uh-huh. We can make it, it's an OpenJS Foundation program, much like JavaScript Landia, but it doesn't have to be OpenJS blah branded. If it's useful for the community, if it's helpful for a neutrality to not even have OpenJS, I'm fine with that too.
I guess it's a good point. Like, do we think it will benefit from not being affiliated with a specific group, or, would we, because at the end of the day, we want to see these things just help people. And
given that we're the people that are sort of putting any of it to happen, it's not going to escape anyone's notice who's behind it. So there's no point in hiding the brand, just own it.
Own it.
I love that too, obviously, but it's flexible.
The counterpoint, although I do also selfishly think it'd be great to have OpenJS all over it. I wouldn't want somebody to think about it, run into it and think, oh, well, this stuff just applies to OpenJS, for example, and so we just would want to make it clear, I think, that this is not specific to OpenJS, but is been put together by the OpenJS, and it's like SDO forum neutral instead of vendor neutral. It's because that's where, yeah, right.
It's neutral squared.
Neutral squared, neutral cubed. Okay. Yeah, so as Robin said, one of our projects, QUnit, made like a dead simple, like very nice Jekyll template that I think is we're going to use for the JSlandia program. It seems like something that's very easy for us to kind of spin up and not Jekyll.
Okay, I forbid it.
Why?
Well, first of all, we're the OpenJS Foundation. I also hate creating Ruby gems and all that garbage.
We're allowed to use tools if they're good tools, even if they're written in a different language.
I do sympathize with that argument, Joe. It did take me 4 hours to upgrade System Ruby 3 weeks ago for some unknown fucking reason, but it works.
I 404 websites because we used, we had to use certain technology.
Yeah, I probably won't work on it, just FYI, because I hate spending 4 hours updating my Ruby and my gems and all that stuff. So,
do you have the bandwidth for providing an alternative solution? Honestly,
11D is what I would use.
There is a point to be made about like JavaScript, but you know what? We're doing the thing which is a symptom of. It's like, oh, okay, this is great. Let's make a blog. What's our stack? Like that's sort of like the. But okay. So I guess the request here, just to kind of close this out, is to continue adding to that issue. This is issue number 130 with your recommendations, like things you would encourage other people to read or like kind of dip into if they wanted to just sort of learn. And the second thing is, I guess more of an action on myself and I guess Brian from like spinning up the like a template site for our for this, and we got a cool name, so that's another thing. Think of a cool name. The Mongooses. That's a cool name, right? Just kidding. All right. Moving to, unless there's anything else, Mike or Sindil, you wanted to weigh in on in terms of the resource piece, like what would be helpful? Nope. Okay, cool. Let's go talk about what's happening in our different SDO communities right now. So obviously there's a meeting happening today and today and tomorrow, which is a TC39 2-day meeting. So we should be hearing from our teammates there what new things are up for discussion, and looking forward to getting that report. Next week is the W3C's Advisory Council meeting. They've released some of their like pre-videos and homework and stuff for us to review and be prepared with. I haven't had a chance to read and take a look at all of those yet, but some important things include some process changes specifically related to what they call the director free W3C, and kind of some changes in their legal entity. That's a big topic for the AC right now. And there's also a handful of charters none of which at the moment are particularly pertinent to our group. For example, the automotive working group, not really sure, that we need to weigh in on that charter, but those are some of the things that are on deck. And as things come in that look relevant to us, I'll be sending that out on our standards email list for y'all to weigh in on. And then last but not least, that spec ed meeting, as I mentioned at the top of the call, the repo has been set up. There's a handful of about 15, 20 issues of tutorials or educational things that Marcos and team want to create. So if you're interested in that community group, anybody can sign up, and anybody can go and weigh in and subscribe and start watching any of those issues. So that is what I know currently about, and then there's the advisory board elections, which will be opening up as soon as the nomination period closes, which is sometime this month. Yeah, that's what I know about W3C. Emily, anything from Unicode you want to share?
The Unicode message format working group is continuing. Right now we're meeting roughly every 2 weeks. The last meeting was actually yesterday. We're still have been for 4 or 5 months now, maybe more, stuck on determining exactly the shape of the data model that that the whole spec is founded around. And the latest decision is effectively to rather than try and solve the issue specifically, just considering the data model, is to in fact start doing parallel implementations based on these two different spec versions on the various parts of the whole stack that forms the message format 2 standard. I have strong opinions here because one of the two models being used is primarily written by Zibi Braniecki from Mozilla and myself. So my part here is to effectively, next time implementing the tooling, if we were to go ahead with this version of the data model, then have the whole parsing from source to formulate the data model, then having a runtime on top of that. And we'll continue to be reviewing this. We're hopefully going to sort of simultaneously with this work soon be able to finally get to talking about the canonical syntax for this whole structure, which is probably the biggest open question for which we don't have anything yet. The other sort of deliverables of the whole project, we have a decent idea of what they're going to be, or we have two different ideas on what they're going to be. There's, of course, many things still to do. It'll take, at a minimum, months for this work to conclude. I hope it's only months, but it's possible it'll take more than that. That's pretty much where we are at the moment.
Months is fast in standards world, though.
We've spent already more than months on getting to this point.
Well, I guess congrats on getting to this point. Cool. Well, thank you for the update. And I think we'll kind of continue because you had an item for private session that might build on this. Let me ask if I'm missing Mike or Joe or Robin, or is there a group that we need to check in on? Miles is our OSI affiliate. He's been super busy, so maybe worth ping him, seeing if there's anything from that.
They are, yeah, I chatted with him briefly about OSI. I think they are rerunning the elections
Oh,
for the board. So I don't know if you all were tracking that. I think there was maybe a process error. And so just to be thorough, they're having an outside auditor take a look at it, and they're rerunning the election.
all right.
Mhm.
Sounds not so fun. All right. Any other business for our public chat? If not, we'll close this early and go to talking about our statements and stuff. All right.